What is going on, y'all? Thank you for joining us here for the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025, and we are winning. Trump has made some brilliant moves, one brilliant move, and some other ones that I think will prove to be just as brilliant. And also, in case you weren't aware, Hamas is evil and must be destroyed. And we have some clips from some very anti-American traitors. So we got that and a whole lot more. But first, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, comment, share these videos. And also just thank you for joining us here on the SHR Media Network. And you can follow this show on all the socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for our merch, head over to missionreadymen.com and click on Shop 7 Armors and check out all the great designs. It seems that my camera is not quite working, so you can't really see the design that I'm wearing right now, but we are working on that. But you can still hear me, so don't go anywhere while we get that taken care of. All right, we got that out of the way. So let us get after it because we got a lot to get into, and I don't want to go way over like we usually do. But we are winning. We just had Kash Patel named as sworn in as the director of the FBI, and you would think that would be the big thing that I would be talking about right now. But of course, President Trump, and like I said, had this brilliant move, and he named Dan Bongino as the deputy FBI director. And I say that's a brilliant move because he has been one of the greatest voices, one of the greatest champions of the conservative movement for the past decade, maybe even longer than that. I've been following him for just about that long, and he's had some great insights and some brilliant analysis, and he has all the requisite law enforcement experience, I think, to bring the FBI back alongside Kash Patel. And a lot of people I saw when the announcement came down, a lot of people were upset. He is going to be, I think, one of the best things that he can do. Well, we're just having all kinds of technical difficulties today. I hope now that you can at least hear me. I think that Dan Bongino is going to be turn out to be one of the most brilliant moves that Trump has made in this second iteration of his administration. With Kash Patel and all the things that he's pledging to do. And not only that, but Kash Patel is also now the acting director of the ATF. And I think that along with Dan Bongino as number two, and if Dan Bongino gets involved with the ATF, if 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 maybe that's why he was brought on, um, that's going to be absolute, because Pam Bondi has that report that she has to present to President Trump in the next couple of weeks. If he's going to be involved in that, well, actually, he won't be, because it just occurred to me that he won't be starting before that report is due, unfortunately. But nevertheless, regardless of what happens, him being involved in the ATF is still going to be absolute gold for the Second Amendment community. And it's just, well, let me go back to a previous point. Dan Bongino leaving the podcast space is, I think that that's a good thing, actually. As popular as he is, as brilliant insights as he has, it leaves an opening for other people. He's going to have a guest host filling his spot while he's gone. It's going to leave an opening for other people like SHR Media to get in there and make some waves. So I think that this is just a fantastic move all the way around. And another move that President Trump made, he fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, CQ Brown. And CQ Brown is a racist. He is a racist. He ordered the Air Force Academy to admit fewer white males. He circulated this memo, and we still haven't got the camera up, but well, and because of that, for some reason, I can't show you these clips. But he issued a memo where he broke down what the racial breakdown of the Air Force when he was just the chief of staff of the Air Force. He broke down what that was supposed to be, and he had been actively campaigning to reduce the number of white men in the Air Force, and then as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs in the entire military. Why? He came out after that nonsense with George Floyd, and he came out just spewing the typical BLM racist nonsense. And I really don't understand why that has been allowed to happen. And it hasn't been because President Trump fired him. And so that is another one of President Trump's best moves to date. And another, well, I don't know if Trump actually had a hand in this, but Graham Allen, another, I won't say giant in the podcast space, but another huge name in the podcast space, has been tapped to work in the DOD with Secretary Hegseth, which again, I think is a great move. I'm not sure exactly what his role is going to be yet. But I think it's going to be fantastic regardless, because Graham Allen brings something to the DOD, brings something to the table that has been missing. And it's something that we are going to get into a little bit later, but he brings a Christian perspective to the DOD, along with Pete Hegseth, and along with a number of other people. All right, people, we're still seeing some technical difficulties, and oh, it seems that we're back. Let me just make sure my microphone is good. There we go. Wow, technology is not my friend today. Anyway, where was I? All right, yes. Graham Allen, he's leaving. I talked about that. He is, he's going to bring a Christian perspective to the DOD, and whatever role he ends up filling, I think he's going to be a great addition to the DOD. All right, camera's back, audio seems to be back. So let's see if we can get this train back on track. Along with all the winning that Trump has been doing, he has he has a way of just making. He has a way of just taking control of every situation, and he had a meeting with all the governors, and of course he wow, technology really is not my friend today. This is frustrating. All right, let's rewind a little bit. President Trump had a meeting with a number of governors from around the country, and one of the governors decided that she was going to make a stand, basically, and it did not work out well for her. It really didn't. And of course, I'm talking about the governor of Maine. And she decided she was going to mouth off. And even though Trump handled it brilliantly, we all know he does not like that. And he was talking about the men in women's sports and all that, and how Maine has decided not to comply. Well, I don't know if you can hear me. If you can't, I apologize. But it seems that technology is conspiring against me today. Are we back? It looks like we're back. And this has been an absolute train wreck of a show today. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to try and just power through this real quick and just and try to get out of here and see if we can resolve some of these issues. But um, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by the gremlins in the technology. Um, President Trump, he decided he was going to put the governor of Maine in her place, and I think it was absolute gold. And hopefully, we can bring it up this time, and so you all can be as entertained as I was.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Are you not going to comply with it? Well, we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. The NCAA.
Oh my goodness, that was awesome, and I think he is 100% correct. She's not going to be. There is a contingent in Maine, I think, that really likes her for whatever reason. But there's videos of her now participating in these drag shows up there, and she's shown herself to be a real friend to the alphabet mafia community. And I just think that he pretty much ended her career. She might be able to squeak out a victory again in Maine, maybe. But the way the direction is going with this gender confusion, gender delusion nonsense, I don't think that's a tenable position going forward anymore. I think a lot of people have finally come around to realize that is not it's just not right on so many different levels, from safety in locker rooms and restrooms and things like that, to safety on the field of play. Just, we all know this to be true, and up until 10 minutes ago, we all always knew this to be true. But for some reason, somehow, the LGBTQ mafia, the alphabet mafia, has been able to somewhat normalize it. But I think that pendulum is about to swing the other way. And real quick, DOGE. I want to pivot to DOGE because every person working in a private sector job has performance reviews, and especially, I know me in the technology field, we have tickets that we have to complete, and we have in some jobs, not all, but a lot of technology jobs, you have to fill out reports at the end of the shift of what all you did and things like that. And it's usually just a compilation, a list of all the tickets that you completed or touched in some way. Everybody goes through this. Everybody who's ever had a job goes through this, but apparently that's not the way it works in the federal government. And federal employees got this email from DOGE saying that they wanted a reply to the email with at least a bullet list of 5 things that they accomplished that week. That it's not that difficult. And it's not unusual in any way. Yet these people, and there was one federal employee who went on CNN, and then she did the rounds on some leftist podcasts and things like that. You had time to do all that, but you didn't have time to respond to an email with the things that you accomplished that week. It doesn't make any sense. And here is, of course, the leftist response to this, and it's just, I conservatives, we like to say that we understand leftists and leftists don't understand us, but there are some things that I just really don't understand. I really don't. Try as I might, I just don't get it. But here's some reaction.
And others in the press were equally outraged.
Elon Musk has zero legal authority to fire government employees or force their resignations. These people don't report to Elon Musk.
This nonsensical email from Elon Musk acting like we're in kindergarten.
It's like an own the libs, make you cry more sort of environment, right? Where both Trump and Musk are performing for the MAGA base.
The new Trump administration is reveling in its bare knuckle approach to government.
This is so sloppy with the way Elon Musk is handling this.
And others in the press were equally.
Wow. Just respond to the email. Just respond to the email. It's really that simple. It really is. But of course, they don't see it that way. And asking people who don't have the guardrails that most other jobs do, most other employees do. This reaction is kind of makes sense because they've been operating with impunity for so long that now being asked to justify their existence in this job, justify why they're collecting this paycheck. I kind of get it. I kind of understand it, but it's not justifiable. I understand why they're doing it, but it's not justifiable. And at this point, when we have all this fraud, waste, and abuse that's being uncovered, asking people to justify their existence it would be negligent of them if they didn't do that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Sorry about that. That usually is on mute. Like I said, technology has not been my friend today. Wow. Anyway, moving on to other people who have now had to move on, have been asked to vacate the premises. And this has been absolutely glorious to watch. And of course, I'm talking about Joyless Reid being let go from MSDNC or MSLSD, as I heard somebody say the other day, which I think is hilarious. But yes, Joyless Reid was fired from MSDNC, and it could not have happened to a more deserving racist. And she's probably one of these people who believes that that Black people can't be racist, which is just patently ridiculous. But let's just take a trip down memory lane. It's not that far, not that long ago, when she had one of dozens of racist rants and meltdowns. But this one right here, This one right here is one of the best and worst. It really is. This was her on, I think this was the night of the election, if not mistaken.
But, I feel like the important sort of data point, and Steve talks about it a lot. He's going to probably talk about it a little more tonight, is that these are white Christians. That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, yes. Especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones, from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper evangelical white state. And he said the following to me: Iowa is about 61% white Christian. The country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. And he said the following, because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses and losses. And he said the following: they see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them. All the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. Then you don't care about electability. You care about what God has given.
So that was at the Iowa caucus, not at the Iowa caucus. That was them reporting on the Iowa caucus, and they're giving her analysis of white evangelical voters, and it really doesn't get much more racist than that. But she was fired. And that was probably mild compared to some of the other things that she said, but she was fired. And her response and the response of her coworkers like Peppermint Patty and Rachel Madcow and all the rest of them over at MSDNC, they just had a meltdown, and they accused, on their own airwaves, they accused MSDNC of being racist, of firing her because they were racist, not because Joy Reid was alienating half of the country, more than half of the country, but because the leadership at MSDNC is racist. And so, of course, they're completely off base. Joy Reid was making $3 million a year, and her viewership since the election fell off a cliff. Fell off an absolute cliff. She was there were mid-tier podcasts bringing in more viewers than she was bringing in. Then most of and there was a big shakeup, and not just her that got caught up in it, but hers is the most entertaining to cover. But so many of the personalities on MSDNC lost more than half of their viewership. The day after the election, viewership just fell off a cliff. 50% or more in some cases. I think hers was like 54%. So she was not worth that $3 million that she was being paid. But here is her reaction to getting fired, and this is wow. This is just nuts.
Hello. I have to say my heart is so full that I hope I can get through this. I want to thank you, Joteka, and I will say our SOAR president literally called me from she was taxiing on the plane, to say that she was flying back from California, and it was just overwhelming to receive that call. Khalil, all of those who have been on the phones with me, and Angie Rye, who has been essentially babysitting me and taking care of me, and Tiffany Cross has been doing the same. My husband is on this call, who's also been doing the same. Mignon Moore, who, my counselor, who's been so great, so kind to just always give me advice. Obviously, Joteka, you are just everything. Holly, who I've been bugging and harassing, who's been making all the technical. I can't even name everyone. Everyone, you all know that you are valuable, you are wonderful, and I hope I haven't missed anyone. It's just my heart is so full. I'm trying to get through it, but everyone who took the time on a Sunday when it was not a regular call to get on this call, I can't even begin. As you can imagine, I have been through every emotion over the past several days. Tasha knows, she's been on the calls with me for some of them. Angela surely knows. Carrie Champion's been on with me. Alicia Guards. I've just been talking to we call ourselves our machetes. I've been talking to all so.
This is the longer clip. I didn't mean to pull this one.
Guilt, that I let my team, but in the end, where I really land and where I've landed on today is just, and gratitude, not just because people would take the time to get on a call like this, or to take care of me, but also that my show had value.
No, it
and
didn't.
That
your show did not have value, because if your show had value, you wouldn't have got fired.
I'm sorry. That what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I think this is kind of like being on TV, so I apologize. And then it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so
well, no, what you were doing didn't matter, because if it mattered, you wouldn't have got fired. And I apologize for that. I pulled the wrong clip on that one. That's my fault. Not technology's fault this time. But yeah, she's gone. And like I said, it couldn't have happened to a nicer racist, a more deserving racist anyway. All right. I want to get a word in from our sponsor before we move on. And I want to try and power through a lot of this and see if we can get done in the time that we have left. We may go over just because of the tech gremlins that have been plaguing us today. But anyway, I do want to give you a word from our sponsor today, Patriot Mobile. And now, as I have said many times in many different ways, now more than ever, it is so important that we support companies, and that we support entities, and that we support organizations that share our values. Because the votes, while great, and the votes have definitely benefited us in the past couple of months, that's not enough. And Patriot Mobile not only shares our beliefs, but they actively do something about it. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless carrier, and they donate a portion of every dollar that you spend with them to organizations that fight for causes that you and I care about. They are doing things down on the border. They are fighting the scourge of abortion. They are fighting the trans agenda. You name it. If Christian conservatives care about it, they're fighting for it. So switch to Patriot Mobile and get a free month of service with the offer code Jackson. Defend freedom with every call and text you make. Go to patriotmobile.com and use the code Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use the promo code Jackson today. All right. I am Biggie, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network. And this is bordering on the ridiculous at this point. Oh, wow. Well, as I was saying, I am Biggie, and you are watching and listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. The Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe, every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And the Big Dog, BZ, with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. So like and subscribe and share all of those guys' great shows, and send up some prayers for us that we have a huge breakthrough this year, excuse me. And of course, now that there are a couple of openings with Dan Bongino and Graham Allen moving on to work for the administration, there's some opportunities there for some of us to step in. And I'm not saying that we will step right into millions of viewers and listeners right off the bat, but the opportunity is there for us. So check out those guys, like and share and subscribe, and pray that we reach as many people as we possibly can. All right. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. And we're a little bit behind, but I do want to make sure that we we may have to forego some things that I had planned, and we'll just, we'll just get them in next time. But we are in a spiritual battle right now. Trump won, and he is doing some great things. He's delivering on promises in a way that I didn't think was possible for Washington politicians. I expected good things, but I didn't expect this much winning. That said, this is really just the beginning, because there are still forces at play that are trying to stop him, that are trying to stop us. And J.D. Vance, in his address at CPAC, and it's been like drinking from a fire hose, because I didn't even cover CPAC at all, and there was some really good things that came out of CPAC. And part of that is something that J.D. Vance said, and we're going to take a listen to that right now before we get into what I really want to address with the spiritual battle. So
my message to young men is, don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. It's our message, the cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose.
Amen.
And we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.
Amen. And when he talked about they want to turn everybody into androgynous idiots. They don't think that there are any differences between men and women, and it's our job to stand up against that. As men, we are called to be warriors. We're called to be a number of things, warriors being one of them. And warriors fight. And the Bible talks about three enemies. Satan, obviously, is one of them. He is the king of this fallen world. Jesus is the ultimate king, obviously, but of this fallen, degenerate world, Satan has dominion, and he's the father of lies. And lies, mistruths, untruths is the foundation that the left is building everything on. The ridiculous idea that men and women are interchangeable, that men can magically transition into women and vice versa. I mean, that's all lies. And those are lies of Satan, lies of the devil. So that's one enemy. The second enemy is our flesh, our basest desires. If we were left to our own devices, when people are left to their own devices, they can be monstrous. We're talking about serial killers, rapists, child molesters, drug dealers, murderers, robbers. You just people are capable of monstrous things. The depravity and debauchery of people like Jeffrey Epstein and Sean Combs, also known as Diddy. The pursuit of pleasure. That's another enemy that we have to fight. But I want to focus on the third enemy, which is the world. And we see it every day. We see it every day with attacks on the church, attacks on children, perverting all areas, perverting the truth in all areas of our lives. We have degenerates and reprobates trying to normalize, and to a certain extent, for a while, they're succeeding in normalizing their degenerate and reprobate agenda and behavior. And Vance touched on it just then with his the way he talked about masculinity and how it's being, how men and boys they're trying to teach us that masculinity is true, masculinity is bad. And of course, well, I don't have it right now, but Dana Bash, and I played this clip before, where Dana Bash at the DNC convention talked about this new version of masculinity that they're trying to promote. And she talked about Tim Walz, and I forget who else she may have mentioned. Oh, Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband. And the way she talked about testosterone-laden men who like to watch wrestling and shoot guns and stuff like that, that was somehow wrong. And so that's the type of masculinity that they're trying to promote. And you see it with guys like Harry Sisson and Kyle Kalinske, who was some of the other ones? Tim Walz, obviously, Luke Beasley, and these are these are the millennial guys, boys, really, because they're really just boys. I think Kyle Kalinski's in his 40s or something like that, but he's still in that same ilk of these effeminate dudes who they're espousing as this new, more acceptable version of masculinity. And the world is okay with that. The world is okay with these feminine men who can't do the most basic things of that men are supposed to do. The world is okay with men pretending to be women. The world is okay with manipulating young boys into believing that if they like a certain thing or gravitate to a certain thing, then that means, by definition, that they were born in the wrong body, and that it's okay for them to, quote unquote, transition into the opposite sex, which of course can't be done. No matter how much they try, no matter how many hormones they pump into you, no matter how many surgeries they mutilate you with, you're always going to be a man. It's that plain and simple. But the world is okay with trying to make that happen, and subjecting these young boys to these medical procedures to, quote unquote, affirm this belief that they've implanted in them. Basically, they're degenerate parents and these Mengele type doctors who are performing these surgeries. It's monstrous, to use the word I mentioned earlier. And the world is okay with boys and men who have been manipulated into thinking that they're girls and women. They've been manipulated into believing that it's okay for them to participate in girls and women's sports, and use the same locker rooms and changing rooms and restrooms as women. The world is okay with that. As men, we absolutely are not. And if you are, then you need to check yourself, because that's not how men are supposed to. That's not how men are supposed to behave. That's not what men are supposed to accept. And like I said, this is a spiritual battle, and we have to be ready for it. We have to be ready for the spiritual battle. And the Bible lays out exactly how we get ready for that spiritual battle. And this is Ephesians 6, verses 11 through 18. And this is part of the scripture that Mission Ready Men is based on. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. And that's just one aspect of how we are supposed to be ready. And that passage goes on to list all the parts of the armor of God. the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, the gospel of peace. All of that goes into it, and that's something that we can absolutely not can we will get into at some point down the road. But so now we have that framework. How do we fight this battle? To go back to Dan Bongino, the do matters. He says that all the time, the do matters. So what we have to do is accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior and pray for his guidance, pray for his guidance over our lives. We pray for this world and our leaders, pray for President Trump and J.D. Vance and Kash Patel and everyone in the administration who is trying to correct the mistakes. And mistakes kind of implies that it wasn't done on purpose, but correct the things that were done in the previous administration, and even and going back even further than that. But we have to do that. We have to get involved in our church, get involved in our communities, tell people about the goodness of God. That's one of my favorite songs, by the way. Perhaps my favorite song. Goodness of God, CeCe Winans. Look it up. Anyway, and we fight by actively resisting the world's ideologies. And that involves this gender delusion ideology, the alphabet mafia, the sexual perversion revolution that they're saying is so great. We need to stand up against that. We need to stand up against the ungodly and unbiblical, buffoonish depictions of manhood that we see in our entertainment today. It's just rampant, and we need to stand up against that and show the world what biblical masculinity looks like. And as I said before, we're going to get into this a little bit more in the future, because I could spend a whole lot more time getting into that, and we're way over. We probably wouldn't be if it weren't for some of the delays we had earlier in the show. But we're going to get into that later on. But right now we're going to pivot, and I hope I gave you something to think about there, and I hope that you go back and look at Ephesians 6, and go back and just read the Bible, read your Bible, and get a sense of what we're trying to do here, and I think you'll understand exactly where we're coming from. But I do want to pivot and get into some other things before we get you out of here. As I said in the opening, Hamas is evil and must be destroyed. And they returned the bodies of the Bibas children. But initially they held back, and they said it was a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. They held back the body of Shiri Bibas, the mother. And they eventually did return her, and her body was confirmed. But they are Israel needs to just go ahead and wipe them off the map. And as long as they continue with this, as long as they continue to play this game and do this dance with Hamas, because Hamas, we know that they use civilians as human shields. They use women and children as human shields. They hide in hospitals and they hide in homes, expecting Israel to pull their punches, expecting Israel to hold back and not just come at them with everything they have. And at this point, if they don't just go in there and wipe them completely out, this is going to continue. This hostage swap, where they give us 4 or 5 people and we give them hundreds of terrorists, it just doesn't make any sense. Israel just needs to go and finish this once and for all. Seriously. On, excuse me, something that I talked about last week, but there was another aspect of it that I missed until I watched it again, and that was the chairman of the German Security Council, where J.D. Vance gave that speech, telling Europe all about themselves and how they are abandoning free speech and other things. And I laughed at this guy who broke down in tears as he was giving his response, I guess. But something that he said in the beginning is something that we need to touch on. And it's really telling. It's really telling, especially given the way their elections just went. But it's really telling that as a member of the global elite, he's completely out of touch with the with the mainstream. But he actually said this, and hopefully you can understand it here in the beginning.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore.
That's it. Our common value base is not that common anymore. And of course, what he was talking about was the principles of free speech, the principles of freedom of religion and things like that. Those are things that we are espousing and trying to get back to. And here he is saying, no, we don't, that's not common to us anymore. That's not what we're about. Wow. That's not us veering off course. That's Europe veering off course. And why are we spending all this money for their defense when we have nothing in common with them? And I don't think that's completely true. I mean, I think that especially based, like I said, on the way the elections went, conservatives overwhelmingly won their elections in Germany. So all is not lost. I hear people say a lot of the time that the world is healing, and that may be true to a certain extent. I think God is healing the world, and I think that there's still a lot of good left for us to do here, and I think that between what's happening here with President Trump and what's happening in places like Argentina and Italy and now France, Germany, and maybe later on down the line France, we'll see how that works out. I think things are starting to look up. All right. Finally, I do want to touch on a couple of things. The left is doubling down, tripling down on their epically, what's the word I'm looking for? On just their ridiculous notions that lost them the election in 2024. And Jasmine Ratchet, as I like to call her, her name is Jasmine Crockett. She represents the 30th district, I think it's District 30 here in Texas, which is the South Dallas area. Not the greatest neighborhood, by any stretch, but she like and I don't know where she gets this, because she's not the brightest bulb. I think she's brighter than AOC. I don't think she's the dumbest member of Congress. She's not dumber than AOC or Eric Swalwell, but she's really not bright. And she speaks in this Ebonics dialect that's annoying and very ghetto. But she has the nerve to think that we're stupid. And this is what she said on The View not too long ago. And then we're going to get into a couple of other clips of her and Ilhan Omar. But she actually has the nerve to think that we're stupid.
He right now has a 53% approval rating. It's higher than it's ever been. 70% believe that he's fulfilling his promises, and 45% believe Democrats should be more moderate. What do you take away? I think there's a lot to make of those numbers. What's your takeaway from that?
My takeaway is just like the election. We've got to do better at education. People don't understand, but you will understand when those hospitals in rural America start closing down even more. You will understand when you don't have your Social Security. You will understand when your Medicaid, your Medicare goes away. You will understand as planes continue to fall out of the sky. Soon you will understand why it's important to maybe have somebody that isn't loud and ridiculous, and maybe Sleepy Joe is what we wanted because we could at least sleep at night.
Yeah, that's the truth. Amen, child.
Wow. So you wanted somebody who could barely get around and was pooping in his diapers. That's what you wanted. Okay. Well, it wasn't just her insinuating that we're stupid. Ilhan Omar, the resident terrorist up in Minnesota, she actually, the one that said some people did things about 9/11. That one, the one who married her brother, committed immigration fraud. I mean, she should be expelled from Congress. But here she is talking about how stupid Americans are.
Are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people, because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing. Not just.
And there she is talking to Mehdi Hassan, another. Anyway.
In Congress, but as Americans, and the fact that these people are allowed to say just the most ridiculous things tells you that the dumbing of the United States has arrived, because how else do we get a Trump presidency again? These people.
So, and this is something that we've said a number of times for a long time. The left really thinks you're stupid. And that used to be kind of the quiet part that they didn't say. But you all knew just from the way they acted. But here, Ilhan Omar and Jasmine Ratchet are just coming right out and saying it. You're stupid because you didn't vote the way we wanted you to. There are some stupid leftists, but there are some that are just confused. They're not idiots. Some of them are, but they're not all idiots. And I can admit that. I mean, Eric Swalwell is, Dan Goldman is, AOC is, Mazie Hirono is, Ted Lieu is. Suppose I could go down the list, but anyway, you get the idea. So that's another thing that we have to confront and combat. And if they keep going down this road, it won't be much of a fight. If this is their strategy going forward, if they keep this up until the midterms, we will expand our majorities in the House and the Senate. And if they keep it up after that, then I think it's going to be J.D. Vance's. Well, I think it is anyway, but J.D. Vance is pretty much a shoo-in at that point, unless some other rock star comes along to primary him, which I really don't see happening. So I say let him do it. Keep calling us stupid. Keep telling us that we're idiots. Keep fighting against DOGE. Keep fighting against the government wasting our money, and keep fighting against DOGE and all the waste, fraud, and abuse that they're finding. Just have at it. Have at it. I am not going to stop you. I think it is the absolute best thing that you could do. I fully endorse it. All right, real quick before we get you out of here, since I'm way over, I might as well just go for it. I have another Ratchet clip for you. And this one is her basically admitting that she's rooting against the United States. She was on The Breakfast Club with Charlemagne, Leonard McKelvey. I refuse to use his full stage name because he's not by any stretch of the definition. But she was on his show, and she actually said this.
Recently, we've seen Eric Adams not being prosecuted. What's your thoughts on that?
Cool with Trump, you get paid.
Listen, my thought is that I'm still black in America and I ain't finna play no kind of games.
Word.
Like, so I am gonna walk the straight and narrow for a number of reasons. Number one, I have some morals about myself. And number two, I know that they would love an opportunity to lock me up, right? Like I would be the exception to the rule. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Canada has really been the one to call it out. The fact that I'm rooting for Canada and I'm rooting for Mexico a lot is really wild, but they are really the ones that are speaking truth to power right now. They can see what it is. And they were like, we are not messing with this crazy regime from Mar-a-Lago, and basically calling them thugs. That's what it is. But I'm like, y'all knew who he was when y'all elected him. So don't act surprised.
Based on that question, and I watched the whole, I didn't watch the whole interview, but I watched enough to get the context of that exchange. And I don't know what Canada and Mexico had to do with the question that was asked. And I mean, what did that have to do with Eric Adams and his case getting shelved? What did Canada and Mexico have to do with the election of Donald Trump? So I don't know where she was going in, and I watched the next like 10, 15 minutes of that. And that was just a non sequitur. It came out of nowhere. It meant absolutely nothing in the context of that conversation. But the takeaway from it is she's rooting for Canada and Mexico. Okay, so you're a traitor. Because if President Trump is trying to make sure that we have better trade deals with our closest trade partners on our borders, if they're taking advantage of us and he is doing what he can to mitigate that and to make sure that that playing field is more even, why are you rooting against that? Why are you an elected official in this country? If you're rooting against us, then go to Mexico or go to Canada and get involved in their politics. But of course, she won't do that. She won't do that because as much as, and she talked about getting paid and about all the people who are against all the people who are making money, and she talked about how the rumors of her being worth millions of dollars are untrue. I don't believe it. She's on the gravy train just like the rest of them. It didn't take Dan Crenshaw long, and I had something I was going to talk about with him too, but we're gonna leave that for another time. But it didn't take Dan Crenshaw long to get on that gravy train. I guarantee you, it didn't take Ghetto Barbie Jasmine Ratchet long to get on that gravy train too. She's getting paid. Her law school training may have helped her hide it better. I don't know, but anyway. All right, y'all. That is all I got for you today. I will try to do much better the next time. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share these episodes so that we can continue to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and the message of hope and liberty that he has in store for us, and preserve it for future generations to come. And also, if you like the shirt I'm wearing, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out this design and all the other cool designs that we have over there that have messages of faith and patriotism. missionreadymen.com, Shop 7 Armors. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.